it feels like, Nick, in the last 6 months to a year, we've been talking about the squad, AOC, Bernie Sanders, that group of people, and being failing at something more often. We've been talking about a shift. Nina Turner not being able to get reelected twice. AOC being protested on. All of the squad, all of the members being protested on. Like, so it's an actual shift, and it's palpable. The DSA losing 10,000 plus members over a year last year. Like, it's so, you can feel it. But go ahead, Nick. You're gonna say something.
CJ, just real quick to your point. One of the reasons why we cover this a lot is because I am of the belief that the betrayal of Bernie Sanders, AOC, and the squad is something that should anger the working class way more and should be a way bigger story. The reason why it's not a big story is because they did something that the establishment supports and agree with. They love that AOC and Bernie did this. But to me, this is a giant deal. Like, I've seen people that say Bernie committed one of the biggest frauds since Barack Obama. That's not newsworthy? Like, you got this guy collected $400 million of working class money. Now he's doing commercials on his YouTube channel for Joe Biden. How is that not news? That's a giant political shift. And now the corporate media is just now getting caught up to this, CJ. Like, this may be the second time I've seen an article like this year. For the first time, we've seen the establishment like, man, AOC, we really don't got a reason to be scared of her like we thought we did. Like, AOC she's not that bad. You know, AOC actually kind of a sellout now we think about it. Like, this is like the second time they are forced to admit something that we've seen years ago. But anyway, I'll let you continue, CJ.
Yeah, so as you can see at the top there, it says the prostration of Democratic Socialists of America Congresswoman AOC, I'll just abbreviate, to the Democratic Party and Biden administration was on display yet again in an interview published Wednesday on the New York Times. And I don't know how I missed this article. Did I miss this article?
I saw it. I was just locked out of New York Times, so I was hoping for an article like this to pop up and summarize it. But on New York Times, they had an article called "The Evolution of AOC," and as you're gonna read here, and there's been like a few of these stories. Like I said, this is like the second one I've seen pop up this year. It's like a wink and a nod to each other, because you guys know when you read the New York Times, it's the establishment talking to each other. When you watch Morning Joe, Morning Joe is news for the establishment and not for us. So when they do these stories, they're like, "Hey guys, AOC on our side now." Just in case you're not caught up to speed. That's what this story is about, to let liberals know that, hey, you don't have to be as mean and vicious to AOC as you used to be, because they're on our side now. Anyway, let's continue, CJ.
Okay, so yeah, I found the story and I'm locked out too. Like, this is crazy. This is such a freaking weird thing that we have to pay for news. That, just think about that, where we are as a society. Just ridiculous. But all right, so let's read the article. So I can't pull it up. I was going to pull it up to just kind of reference it, but I pulled it up and the ad block came up. So let's continue. So it's referencing that article, The Evolution of AOC. Funny, because I covered another article. I think it was through Jacobin. It had the same title.
I need to get a link to that article. I need to get like a link that bypassed the paywall, because I can't wait to actually see it. Someone eventually gonna do a breakdown, because it's paywall to help. Eventually someone's gonna do a breakdown of what she said. But anyway, this article, I think I read. I think this article does a good job summing up.
Yeah, it breaks it down a lot. But if anybody has any ideas how to get bypass this, put it in the chat. I don't mean for now, but for maybe future, Nick and I can use it in the future. To bypass these paywalls. All right, so but let's read. The interview titled "The Evolution of AOC" was conducted to give AOC a platform to defend herself from what she called a growing suspicion among workers and young people that she is nothing but a standard Democratic Party.
That's politician. A great.
I'm going to pause here because that almost, I mean, I'm just saying this, I'm being hyperbole. That almost makes me want to get a damn membership from New York Times, because who is she speaking to when she's going to the New York Times to try to get pity? Do real radical people read New York Times, or does the middle of the road liberal read it? So she's going, Look, guys, they're coming after me. Please save me. You get what I'm saying? So, I mean, But she's going there now. This first little sentence is a lot, and you sort of sighed about it too, because look what this first sentence says. She's going to what, Nick? One of the biggest newspapers to say, hey, she's getting like she's being affected by our critique. I don't mean literally RBN's critique, but like I always say, it feels different, Nick. It doesn't feel like this is the normal, oh, I'm disappointed. This feels different.
Yeah,
and to me, this is evidence that this is different. They saying, wait a minute. Yeah, we typically do something bad. A few months later, they're back on our side after we tweet Medicare for all. But we tweeted Medicare for all, and these motherfuckers in our replies still calling us out. This shit ain't the same. So she's going on here to say, I need to plead our case because we have really lost a lot of ground here. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's that, and that's why I said I like this paragraph, because my initial take was because you mentioned who reads the New York, who reads this stuff, right? Like I think this is the establishment initiation, land of their readers in their class know that AOC is one of them. But go back up to that paragraph. There it is right there, because she was interviewed and given a platform to defend herself from what she called a growing suspicion among workers and young people that she's nothing but a standard Democratic Party politician. So I'm gonna ask you guys this question: why now, fam? Because there have been harsh criticisms of AOC, and I'm being very lenient here, since at least Forced to Vote, and there was a lot since before that. But let's sanctify Forced to Vote as the time when AOC started getting vitriolic, quote unquote, violent hate, right? Now it's to the point where they see her approval rating numbers. They see that AOC is as unpopular as Hillary Clinton. You think the New York Times editors and these liberal New York Times journalists who do nothing but spend their time on Twitter don't see us roasting AOC every fucking day? So the reason why I say this is significant, that paragraph made me look at this differently. This is a giant W for us. Again, you guys know how polls are like, you know how they use polls and a lot of those report as their grade card, right?
Yeah.
So the New York Times and these institutional media outlets acknowledging that the left is turning against AOC is them acknowledging that we are so loud they can't ignore it. They're like, hey, AOC, I thought you was why the fuck you lose to Jimmy Dore and RBN left? What the fuck going on here? I thought you was a radical. So CJ, a lot of them are legitimately confused because they're like, I thought that AOC was cool with them. What I looked on Twitter, I saw that. I saw you trending, nigga. RBN was roasting you. That CJ guy or Jimmy was roasting you. All the people roasting you. So they brought her on and gave her an interview like, hey, you want to defend? What the fuck is going on here? I thought you was. And so that paragraph is great. She didn't think about it like that at first. To defend herself, that's a key part. Being my pass to you, that's a great point. I actually didn't consider that before, but go ahead, let's continue.
No, I agree. That is a great point made. Her weak attempts to justify her right-wing role in Congress only confirmed those suspicions are correct. And quote, do you see yourself as more of an insider now? End quote.
Jesus Christ. They know, CJ. That's a question they would not ask AOC if AOC was not being hammered by the RBN left, the Harlan's media, the Due Dissonance, the Black Agenda reports, you know what I mean? The Black Power media. If we was not hammering them, imagine if we liked what AOC was doing. They wouldn't be like, you're an insider, nigga. They would still consider her an outsider. But they see her getting rejected by us. So then they ask her, do you see yourself more of an insider now? Since you sold those people out over there who hate your guts now? Anyway, sorry, let's go on, CJ.
And of course, she has to.
I got to the New York Times for a month. I probably got to get a free trial.
I know. That's what I'm saying. I feel like, man, I almost want to pay for it just for
They got free trial. They got free trial for like a week.
Just to see this article, or if anybody knows a way. You know who I always see post a free version of the article of the New York Times? A Jamu. But it's always like some other site, and then it says New York Times. So obviously, this other site. Yeah, we got to get that link. But anyway, let's continue here because they do talk about what's in the article enough for us to know part of what's in it enough to discuss. But let's continue. Do you see yourself as more of an insider now? Asked the New York Times interviewer Lulu Garcia Navarro, and here's the quote. Quote, I don't think so. I mean, that's so AOC. I mean, she says that all the time. I don't think so.
I did not read it like that. I read it in her voice. I literally read it in her voice now because you said it.
Yeah. All right.
I don't think so. I mean, on a certain level, once you're engaged as a legislator, you're on the inside. I can definitely see her saying to translate this outside energy to internal change. I can definitely see her saying this.
That's her. That's her. Now, let's take a step back here and let's go back to our English class. And here's an indication that a person is about to tell you a word salad.
Yeah.
Or has a jumbled thinking. Let's count the number of commas in one sentence, Nick. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Look like this shit. That's how you know, because it's not a complete thought. So they have to put a comma because it's not a complete thought. So we already know we're on the ride. We're going to be going on a ride here. So let's listen.
It's funny because you got to realize interviews always sound better on paper like this. Because if you ever like read an interview versus watch it, sometimes they be like, "Well, actually, I've been a president of this company for a long time." But if you read it, it would say, "I've been a president for this company for a long time." So they making her look better with the text, but you can still tell she's struggling.
It's still
That's
struggling.
Hilarious.
It's still struggling because I get what you're saying. I could say like this: "Do you see yourself as an insider?" I could have said it. Do you see yourself as an You get what I'm saying? But they don't put commas for that. If they're putting commas,
yeah, that's how you know.
In real life, that shit was a struggle. In real life, that shit was a struggle. So let me read it. It says, "I don't think so. I mean, on a certain level." That's that Marianne Williamson. Yeah. Look at it one way. Once you are engaged as a legislator. So this is literally what she just did, Nick. She says, "I don't think so," meaning no. And then she says, "But on the other hand, maybe yes." That's what she's saying here. That's the same thing that Marianne Williamson says.
On one hand, I like to think of myself as a rebel, but on the other hand, technically, yeah, I am. Jesus Christ, dude.
Okay, so go ahead.
Now I was just thinking, like, dude, if we had an RBN account for New York Times, and we buy the bill, imagine how many of these fucking articles that we could just fucking roast. Anyway, let's continue. Like,
that's how they're keeping us out. That's the next thing. We gotta raise money to get a membership to the New York Times and the Washington Post, because those are clear top propaganda networks. Yeah,
we can do a service so you guys can see the bullshit that they're saying without paying for it. So
right,
I don't know. I might consider it, because imagine the propaganda report we had to do. If we can read some New York Times Ukraine stories, because I see them, I just can't click them. They be saying the titles be crazy as fuck. I'm like, man, I can't even.
They be wanting you to click on it. Yeah, you be like, damn, I know that's a good article based on.
I knew I was fucking wrong. Yeah. Meanwhile, I think about it, man. Meanwhile,
so all right, so where was it? Right here. So here, let me read again what she's saying. "I don't think so. I mean, on a certain level, once you are engaged as a legislator, you are on the inside," AOC replied, adding that being on the inside allows her to translate this outside energy into internal change. In order to have outside energy, Nick, don't you actually have to engage with the people on the outside? She didn't engage in no Medicare for all. She didn't engage in no forced to vote. Exactly. So what are you talking about? But you notice the pivot. She goes, "No, I'm not." She clearly uses the phrasing to say "I'm not." And then, Nick, she explains how she is the opposite without saying, "Yes, I am." You get what I'm saying? She explains it without saying it. "Yes, I am." And then she goes, then she tries to move on. "Yeah, I'm an insider, but I'm an insider because I'm going to use that outside energy to."
That's bullshit.
That's what she's trying to.
Because they're not the only outsiders that they work with are people who do DNC approved actions. So you're gonna see AOC with Gen Z for change, right? But are you seeing AOC with Jerome and Tour for the Poor? Why aren't you seeing AOC at Julian Assange rallies, anti-war rallies? They only work with the DNC approved outsiders. Anyway, let's continue, CJ.
Yes. it is becoming increasingly obvious that AOC's role in Congress has been not to translate left-wing opposition into internal change. It has been to suffocate outside energy and translate it into support for the Democratic Party and facilitate its right-wing policies. Nick, I must say about this article, they got some of these sections are just excellent writing, and this is one of them because this is Eric London. Eric London. Take it with a grain of salt. It's Eric London, the one that Savvy interviewed, but still, this particular one is written well because
Eric London has a ton of bad takes, but we all acknowledge that just because someone has a bad take on something, don't mean they can't get some things right. Yeah, I will say, like, I didn't know who wrote this article, but he's without a doubt nailing this article. But Eric London is very fucking problematic in a lot of ways. But go ahead, CJ.
And Nick, when I was using the articles from the World Socialist website, when I wasn't even looking at the author, it was Eric, and we were covering it. But what all the articles that we always cover, guess what they were about? He's excellent on his critique of the Squad on progressive Democrat narrative, and those are the only articles we read.
Yeah, he's good on that. Yeah,
he's excellent on that.
He's good on that the same way that I will acknowledge that RFK is good on Ukraine. RFK, we can do RFK Ukraine segments all day. He's fucking fantastic on that issue. Asking about other shit though, we're like, Zionism, Syria, Iran, that would shit get squirrely. Reparations, but he's great on Ukraine. That's what Eric London is on the Squad, and
he's great on the Squad. He's great. But I love this because it's increasingly obvious that her role in Congress is not to translate. This is what people are waking up. You ain't translating no leftist energy. You're not doing that. What she's here to do is suffocate outside energy and translate it into support. No. I know you're upset that that Joe Biden didn't do $15 minimum wage and he blamed it on the parliament. Yeah. We're big mad, but he's the most progressive president. He's way more progressive than a senator. He's way more. He did this, and that. You see how you're translating it?
I'll be right back
into a Democratic support. Yeah, go ahead. And I'm going to continue with the article here. Now, at this point, AOC has abandoned even verbal criticism of the Democratic leadership. So she doesn't even chime in at all. And this is something, you've heard this from our channel, from Jimmy Dore, from everybody on the left, except for the NATO left, that she hasn't been chiming in on the Democratic leadership. She declared last year that she would, quote, put aside differences with top Democratic officials in the name of party unity, and recently endorsed Joe Biden, saying, quote, the president has been doing a very good job so far, end quote. Just a lie. This amounts to a blanket endorsement of the defining features of his presidency. And this is the same sort of, this is the same way, like, I think we here at RBN would describe it, is that, or we have described it, is that when you're giving Joe Biden, the neoliberalism, the Biden administration, the Democrats, these high marks, what are you really saying? And this is what it's saying. You're really saying is you're giving a blanket endorsement for some of the things that the Joe Biden presidency is doing, including, and I'll go back to the article, including reckless war against Russia and the premature declaration that I guess I could say this part. The corona pandemic is over. If it talks about the corona shit, you guys already know YouTube already got us on something. So I'm not gonna go there anymore. So I'll just kind of side talk about it. Another good news, we got those strikes. We appealed both of the strikes, and one of them was removed like the next day. And recently, the second one was removed like a couple of weeks ago. So both of them have been removed. We're trying now to get a warning we got on our channel removed, and then it'll be spotless. So right now it's just a warning. It's not a strike, but a warning for something else. It was a Jon Stewart video when we broke down something he did, I think with Hillary Clinton. We broke down. But yeah. I see you back, Nick. So now, this is some of the parts that I was going to read on, or I did read on Twitter, so it's a rehash. The Times asked AOC why the Congresswoman. Oh no, I didn't read this part. I'm sorry. I decided to read it from here. Listen to this. This is one of the excerpts I posted on Twitter, Nick. The Times asked AOC why the Congresswoman believes, quote, those on the left. So understand, they're trying to question, are they really on the left? That's why they put that in quotes. It's like, well, if they're critiquing you, are they on the left? That's what they're kind of trying to do right there. Yeah. Continue to, quote, accuse you. This is another quote, accuse you of compromising on your progressive ideas as you work within the party system. So that's also in quotes, because it's challenging. How are you compromising your progressive ideas? Challenging that. They don't want to give validity to that, any of that, even in their writings. And they're quoting the New York Times is what they're doing here. She said, this is her response, Nick, to our criticism. And understand, to what we've been saying, it's literally us, RBN. You saw us on Mediaite. They know it's us, Nick. So we now, Nick, moving forward, we now can say without question, they are literally talking about RBN. We can say that
now you guys know we're not delusional. That's why I'm so glad I saw that chart. I had like a few people message me that. Now I'm glad I caught you with that blind, because it's a fucking fact. I'm about to tweet it out right now. I'm going to tweet the chart out.
Yeah, we need to save that as an important receipt. Anytime somebody, what are you talking about? Nobody cares. Really? Here's Mediaite. What are you talking about? So I'm going to be bringing that up as a receipt going forward. Right, so, let's continue. She said left-wing criticisms are, this is her description of it, because we haven't really had a political presence like this in the United States before. I don't even know what that even means, Nick. I don't even know. So she's getting criticized. I guess maybe she's saying the left is waking up, and that's the presence. We've never had the left waking up. We've never had RBN challenging the NATO left narratives. So now we have people criticizing us because we have RBN and Jimmy Dore and Convo Couch and Misty and several others who are calling us out. So this is the critique. And she goes on to say, and her criticism and her critics are bewildered by the prospects of being in power. Can you break this? Let me finish it. Yeah,
I saw that quote. That's a quote I actually saw without reading the article, because that's a part that a lot of people took. They said AOC said her critics are bewildered by the prospects of being in power. No, fam, you corrupt piece of shit. So what we said many times on here before, if AOC and Bernie Sanders tried to force a vote on Medicare for all, if they did their best to block Ukraine war funding, if they tried their best to stop Biden from preventing the rail strike and calling it out, etc., if they did everything we criticized them not to do, and they failed, there wouldn't be this hatred. You know what I mean? We'd be like, all right, patch yourself up. Let's go. Let's strategize and see what the next thing we're going to do then. You know what I mean? If they intended to march for Medicare for all, they did all these things we wanted them to do, and we didn't get Medicare for all, do you think we will roast them? No, we like, all right, let's figure out what the next step is. You know what I mean? So we're not bewildered by the process of power. Like this clown AOC says, we are bewildered by her inability to wield it at all, and her inability to accept any suggestions from the people she claims she represents. The only people she takes suggestions from is Nancy Pelosi when she grabs her ass and tells her to vote president on the Iron Dome. That's the suggestion she listens to. She don't even listen to what we say. Like, could RBN and Jimmy Dore, could we roast AOC if AOC followed our advice and failed? No, she was one of us. It'd be no different if one of us failed on an endeavor. At that point, we are bewildered by their inability to wield power and their inability to work with outsiders because they despise us. But anyway, let's continue, CJ.
And I'm going to shout this out now. Nick, we have such a base freaking community Somebody tag me.
We got a community of the most far left extreme community.
Yes.
The most far left extreme community. But anyway, go ahead.
Somebody tag me on Twitter with the article where you can get it unblocked. So we're going to get to the actual article in just a second, just to read a little bit of it. So we have the New York Times article. That's basically what I'm saying. We have access to it now. Somebody tagged me on the unblocked version of it. Great. So thank you for that, our community. And let me read some more of this article, and then we'll just bring up the other one just to see if there's anything bombshells in it that we need to cover. She said, I'm sorry, let me continue down here. Actually, I do want to read this again. She said left-wing criticisms are because we haven't really had a political presence like this in the United States before, and her critics are bewildered by the prospects of being in power. So I'm just trying to get an understanding of what they're saying. Not that I agree. Do you understand what she's saying? That we are criticizing her because we haven't really had political presence like this in the United States before, and we are bewildered with the possibility of power. I don't understand the logic in what they're saying here.
This is something that you can only say when you know there's no follow-up question coming. Because I wouldn't even respond to what you sound like. What does this have to do with you voting for Ukraine war funding? What does this have to do with you helping Biden break the world strike? You guys don't understand the complexities of me wielding power. What does you having power have to do with the fact that you gave weapons to Nazis in Ukraine? You had the power to not do that. So this goes back to the criticism that people don't even understand about RBN. A lot of the hatred that we have from Bernie Sanders and Democrats is not what they don't do for us. Oh my God, no, the Democrats not doing enough for us. Oh no, that's not us.
No.
Man, the Democrats are funding the police state. The Democrats are war criminals. They are waging class war on the workers. That is the difference between our analysis versus everyone else, versus TYT, versus Kyle Kalinske, Breaking Points, you name them. Their criticism of the Democratic Party is, why won't the Democratic Party give us $15 minimum wage, CJ? Nigga, my criticism that Joe Biden is literally busting unions is different. We're not built the same. That's why we're the most far left. That's why we're the most far left, pro-working class media propaganda outlet in the country, according to Mediaite. Because we have a completely different criticism. How would AOC even respond to that? She's on RBN in an alternate reality, and she's giving me this word. Like, you guys don't understand the complexity of getting power. What do you having power have to do with the fact that you keep voting with Joe Biden? Absolutely not, goddamn. That is an absolutely ridiculous excuse. Anyway, let's continue.
Yes, and it goes on here. I think over time there's been an inherent association between power, assent, and quote unquote selling out. Wait, so she's saying this is a word salad. I'm trying to break it down. I think she's saying just the fact that she's getting promotions, people are equating that with selling out. Like, how can you be getting these establishment positions if you're not selling out? She's trying to say it's not based on material things she's done, votes or anything. It's based on just the fact, they see me, ascending in power. So they obviously think this must be something, there's a sellout. And that's what she's trying to say here. And I'll read the quote again. I think over time, there's been she's trying to say it's an inherent association between power and assent and quote unquote selling out. She said, referencing a belief that there's no way in this country you can accrue any kind of power without there being some Fostation compromise. This is her. She can only sell this to somebody without a brain. This is the professional managerial class trying to act like people are stupid, Nick. That's what
This is the
she's
dum-dum
trying
left.
to do here. Yeah, that's what she's
Remember
trying to
the
do here.
dum-dum left that Anna Kasparian, Tom Hartman, Emma Vigeland, Sam Cedar. We explained to you guys many times. They're here to cultivate a dum-dum left. And that's the left that AOC knows she's appealing to at this point. Brain broken suburban wine moms. But anyway, CJ, you can continue.
Yes. I'm sorry, I'll read it up there on the screen. A Faustine compromise is a pact whereby a person trades something of supreme moral or superior importance for something worldly or material benefit. Trade something of superior moral and spiritual importance for something worldly. Okay, but unlike the heroes of Marlowe and Ghetto, I don't know how to, I think I'm saying this, Get or Goat, who sold his soul to the devil, Ocasio-Cortez has very little to sell in the first place, and she does have very little to sell. She did not, as she claimed in the interview, quote, come from a background of direct action and activism, and she has no political principles to portray. She was an intern in the Foreign Affairs Office of Democratic Senator Ted Kennedy and started a career in the Democratic Party politics. She was picked by the Democratic Party group brand new Congress in 2017 as a candidate and joined DSA only after she was vetted in order to boost her left bona fide. So, Nick, I always thought she started out as a left activist and then she just kind of fell into the Democratic Party politics. You're telling me it's the other way around?
Yeah, that's why
she was a Democrat establishment, and then she just kind of, in order to create her brand, she decided, oh, let me just be the left brand. But go ahead, Nick. You were going to say something.
It's one of the things that the Bernie Sanders left lied to people about, and they still continue to lie about this to this day, CJ. Guys, when I used to be in the Bernie Sanders coalition, when I liked Bernie Sanders, when I used to like AOC, I didn't know this. Like, this is one of the things I thought she was a bartender, just an ordinary worker person. She was a DSA member. She took a long shot bid at running for office, and she won. That's the story. They don't tell you that she entered for Ted Kennedy. They don't tell you that she did like some volunteer program with USAID, with United States Aid to Africa. You know, that imperialist front, the CIA imperialist front. She literally did a trip with them before to Africa, and then she studied at Boston U for international studies. Something that everyone knew was a common education path for people who joined the CIA in intelligence. So a lot of people who joined CIA intelligence, Boston U is the place to go. And they study international world, some wherever fucking major was, like international studies. Like, that's like the code for, hey, I want to be CIA. You guys got me? So anyway, if I knew that, guys, I learned that shit hell late. I take the L on that. I learned that shit hella late around the time I was becoming skeptical of AOC. If I knew that AOC was a Ted Kennedy intern, that she did a USAID-sponsored foreign policy trip, that she went to Boston U for international studies, that she was vetted. And if you think about it, I didn't think much about it at the time, but burn down the house. How the fuck did this random bartender get a Netflix deal for a movie called Burn Down the House? She was already being scouted, fam. And then we saw that Paula James lost the damn mind, right? She was part of that too. Paula James Swearigan lost her damn mind, became a red Brown Alliance conspiracy pushing fraud, pretty much a standard liberal bullshitter. That's who she is. She was in that movie too. All the people that turned out to be bullshitters was part of that Netflix Burn Down the House. They were all scouted. But anyway, CJ, I have a story.
Well, I do want to. The reason I stopped that article is because I do want to read a little bit of this. You're gonna want to hear some of this, Nick. I just skimmed a little bit. Okay, let me just read some of. So AOC.
Dude, we might have to break down this entire article at a different. I'm not saying you can.
Yeah, we're not going to read all of it, but we'll read.
I might have to fucking get a free trial for this, like just for this article or some shit.
Yeah.
Anyway, go ahead, CJ.
Yeah. So Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez on how she's changed. A congresswoman from New York says she's different from when she first took office, but she's not ready to call herself an insider. And let's read just a little bit of it, maybe the first two paragraphs. Rep AOC is used to being a lightning rod. Since her election in 2018, she has been celebrated and vilified by both parties, sometimes simultaneously. Miss AOC, though, is no longer the freshman outsider. Now in her third term, with a high-ranking position on a powerful House committee, she has learned to maneuver in Congress, making allies on the left and working with her political adversaries.
Oh yeah, I definitely want to read this whole thing. I gotta read this whole thing later because this is crazy. Like, it's funny how this article is. They doing so many things at once, but I'm sorry, I passed to you. I got to break this down later. There's so many things they're accomplishing at once with this article. But continue.
It's just like it's almost like a Morning Joe if it was written. You know what I mean? There's so many layers of propaganda.
Hey, they made the New York Times for a reason. Whoever wrote this and got this interview, they are the Kobe Bryant of this shit. You know what I mean? They made it to this level for a reason. Nigga, I made the New York Times the same way that nigga, I got drafted first pick in the NBA draft. Nigga, I got recruited by the New York Times. I'm a master propaganda. This is master class shit that we watching here. But anyway, continue, CJ.
Like right here, what do they mean making allies on the left? With who?
Yes.
Who are they talking about making allies? What allies? And I'll continue here. She says that might make the progressive wing of her party suspicious, but she's comfortable having more influence on the inside.
So AOC do not understand why we would be suspicious when you guys vote for Hakeem Jeffries, who says his number one goal is to stop socialists from winning office. So Hakeem Jeffries' number one priority is to stop your movement, fam. This is why we tell you guys that more than RBN, the TYTs, the David Does, and the Kyle Kalinskis, the people who believe in taking over the Democratic Party should be more upset at Bernie and AOC than we are, really. Bernie and AOC helps us. They pull people towards Marxism and make them more radicalized because they hate how the social democrats are leading us. But if you believe in taking over the Democratic Party, you should be mad at Bernie and AOC for conceding power to Hakeem Jeffries, who literally signed a death warrant on your movement. The DCCC and the people that Hakeem Jeffries is going to put in, they're going to destroy your movement, which is already struggling to win elections now. Right? But anyway, sorry. I know you want to continue, CJ. Go ahead.
Nick, and this will be the last paragraph because after I just saw this, we're going to need way more time. Look at this. They read this to her, so this is sort of it's in article form, but part answer, like they ask a question. So the stuff in bold is them asking her a question. This is what they ask her. They bring up these recent articles, Nick, the ones we covered. Now
we broke every single one of these down.
I will be curious to hear what she says. This is the question. I want to read to you two recent headlines from New York Magazine. They were written within a week of each other. The first is AOC is just a regular old Democrat, so she cannot say she haven't heard these articles, Nick.
Yes.
And
I'm glad we read this part. Remember what I said in the beginning? This is the New York Times bringing AOC in and like, hey, bro, what's happening? I thought you was good, bro. I thought you was a radical. Like, this is them acknowledging. That's crazy. But anyway, let's continue.
Yes.
This is exactly what I said.
They're bringing up these other articles. So, Nick, you notice all these like literally how many AOC articles like this or something relevant to this matter in the last 3 weeks. It is a acknowledgement that she is losing influence. She is losing influence in the left radical spaces. She is losing influence. But I don't want to go on another diatribe, so let me read this. The first is AOC is just another Democrat now, and that accuses you of compromising your progressive ideas as you work within the party system. And then came the rebuttal. So, Nick, she can't say she's unaware of this, that she's compromised. She now knows. They ask you directly. So she can't pretend like just because she's not responding to us, she hears all of us on Twitter. She hears all of our criticism. She sees it. And let me continue. which was the AOC left has achieved plenty, which argue that your wing has pushed the party leftward. Why do you think your role is still being parsed this way by Democrats and those on the left? And this is what she says. Part of it is because we haven't. Oh, no, this is the part that she goes into, but I want to read the second part I haven't read yet. I think very often you had this consummate insider that was bankrolled by corporate money and advancing this, frankly, very neoliberal agenda. And those were the people that were used to seeing in power. And so I think over time, there's been an inherent association between power and assent and quote unquote selling out. So she's trying to say, yeah, you saw other people, and this will be all we cover because we want to cover this later. She's trying to say, yeah, normally, Nick, when you see people who are achieving these things that I'm achieving, normally those people are corrupt. Yeah. But I'm the first one that's not that, Nick. I'm different, is what she's trying to say.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. The signs that normally tell you the person is sold out, I'm different, though. But go ahead, Nick, if you wanted to chime in final words.
That's what they always say. Like, come on, man, not me. What are you doing? Are you calling me a sellout? That's so uncivil. Yes.